Commander Eric Daniels stood at the viewport of the Terran Defense Fleet's flagship Intrepid, watching the strange alien vessels approach. The ships looked like giant metal squids, with long tentacle-like appendages that glowed blue at the tips. This was humanity's first contact with the Zalarax Empire, and everyone on the bridge felt the weight of the moment. "They're hailing us, sir," said Lieutenant Kate Franklin, her fingers moving quickly over her console. She was the ship's xenobiologist, specially trained for this mission. Her long brown hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her green eyes narrowed, as she studied the incoming transmission. "On screen," Eric ordered, straightening his blue uniform. He had practiced this moment 100 times in simulations, but nothing could prepare him for the real thing. The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that indeed resembled an Earth squid, but with 4 intelligent eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on what appeared to be its face. Its skin shifted colors as it moved, currently a peaceful-looking blue-green. "Greetings, representatives of Earth." The translator converted the series of clicks and whistles into English. "I am High Commander Zextul of the Zalarax Empire. We welcome you to our sector of space." Eric stepped forward. "I am Commander Eric Daniels of the Earthship Intrepid. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." The meeting seemed to go well. The Zalarax invited a human delegation to come aboard their flagship for what they called a ceremonial exchange of knowledge. Eric selected a team of 12, including himself and Kate, who insisted on coming despite his concerns. "I need to be there," Kate had said firmly. "Something about their body language doesn't match their words." Eric trusted Kate's instincts. She had studied alien biology and behavior for years, even though humans had only encountered minor, non-intelligent alien life before the Zalarax. The human delegation boarded the Zalarax ship via shuttle. The inside of the alien vessel was humid and dimly lit with curved walls that seemed almost organic. The Zalarax guided them to a large chamber where several alien officials waited. As the humans entered, Kate grabbed Eric's arm. "Commander," she whispered urgently, "notice how they're positioned around the room? It's not ceremonial, it's tactical." Before Eric could respond, the High Commander spoke. "We have studied your transmissions for some time, humans. Your planet is rich in resources, and your people will make excellent test subjects." The chamber doors sealed shut with a hiss. "Run," Eric shouted, drawing his sidearm. The delegation turned to flee, but Zalarax soldiers poured in from hidden entrances. Kate fired her weapon at a control panel, causing a section of the wall to spark and smoke. This way, half the team followed her lead while the others, including Eric, were cut off by the advancing aliens. Eric saw Kate hesitate, looking back at him. "Go," he shouted. "That's an order, Lieutenant. Get back to the ship." The last thing Eric saw before a stun weapon hit him was Kate leading 5 others through the smoking gap in the wall. Kate and the survivors fought their way back to the shuttle bay. 2 more crew members fell to alien weapons before they reached their shuttle. Lieutenant Ryan Wells, the pilot, was already warming up the engines when they arrived. "Where's the commander?" Ryan asked, his face pale as the smaller group rushed aboard. "They got him. And the others," Kate said, her voice breaking. "We have to go. Now." The shuttle blasted out of the bay as Zalarax soldiers fired at them. The small craft shook violently as it took hits, but Ryan's skilled flying got them clear of the alien flagship. "Intrepid, this is Franklin. Emergency extraction. We are under attack. Repeat. The Zalarax are hostile," Kate shouted into the comm. Back on the Intrepid, First Officer Paul Henderson had already seen the Zalarax ships moving into attack positions. When Kate's message came through, he immediately ordered battle stations. "Get that shuttle aboard and prepare for emergency jump," Paul ordered. The shuttle barely made it into the landing bay before the first heavy shots from the Zalarax ships hit the Intrepid's shields. The human ship returned fire while backing away from the alien fleet. Once Kate was back on the bridge, she reported what had happened. "They planned this from the start," she said, still breathing hard. "They took the commander and 5 others prisoner." Just then, the communications officer called out, "Incoming transmission from the Zalarax flagship." The screen showed High Commander Zex Atul again, but now its skin pulsed angry red and orange. Behind it, they could see the human prisoners being dragged away by Zalarak's guards. "Your kind will serve the Empire well," Zextol said. "These specimens will help us determine how best to utilize your species. Your physical capabilities are interesting to us." Eric Daniels was brought forward, his face bruised but his eyes defiant. "Don't listen to them, Henderson. Get the ship out of here and warn Earth." A Zalarak's guard struck Eric, sending him to his knees. "You have one planetary rotation to surrender. Your vessel," Zextol said, "or we will begin our tests on your commander." Paul looked at Kate and the other officers on the bridge. Their faces showed anger, fear, and determination. He made his decision. "Helm, plot a jump course to Earth maximum speed," he ordered. "Sir, we can't leave them," protested Lieutenant Gary Martinez from Weapons Control. "We have no choice," Paul said grimly. "We're outgunned 3-1. Our duty is to warn Earth." As the Intrepid prepared to jump away, Eric Daniels managed to stand up straight on the enemy ship's bridge. Looking directly into the transmission camera, he spoke clearly. "Send the code, Paul. Fallen Eagle." Paul's face went white. The Fallen Eagle code meant only one thing. Humanity's first interstellar war had begun. "Code sent," the communications officer confirmed quietly. The last image before the transmission cut was Eric standing proudly, even as alien hands restrained him. The Intrepid jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind their captured comrades but carrying a warning that would change the future of humanity forever. As they raced toward Earth, Kate stood at the viewport where Eric had stood just hours before. "We'll come back for you," she whispered. "All of you," Paul joined her, his face set in grim lines. "Earth will respond with everything we have. The Zalaraks just made the biggest mistake in their history." "Why would they do this?" Kate asked. "We came in peace." "They don't see us as equals," Paul replied. "They see us as resources, as test subjects." He turned to face the crew on the bridge. "But they're going to learn what happens when you cage humans." The Intrepid sped through space carrying news of betrayal, capture, and the start of humanity's first interstellar war. Behind them, 6 brave humans faced an uncertain fate at the hands of an empire that had no idea what they had just provoked. 6 months passed since the first attack. Humanity had suffered several defeats. The Zalarak's empire had captured more ships and taken many crews prisoner. No one knew what happened to the prisoners. No one had come back to tell. Captain Laura. Bennett stood on the bridge of the Phantom, a stealth ship designed to spy on enemy territory. Her short blonde hair framed a face lined with worry. She hadn't slept well in days. "Are we still undetected?" she asked her second-in-command, Jack Miller. Jack checked the sensors again. "Yes, Captain. Their scanners can't see us with our cloaking. System active." The Phantom had been in Zalarak space for 3 days. Their mission was to find out what happened to the human prisoners and gather any useful information about Zalarak's technology and defenses. "I'm picking up strange energy readings from that moon," said Lisa Reed, the science officer. Her dark fingers moved quickly over the console. "It's artificial and very powerful." Laura studied the readings. "Could be a base or research facility. Take us closer but maintain stealth protocols." As they approached the moon, they saw it was heavily guarded by Zalarak ships. The moon itself had been transformed into a massive facility with domes and towers covering much of its surface. "Can we get visual on what's inside those structures?" Laura asked. Lisa adjusted the ship's sensors. "I can try to filter through their shielding." After a moment, grainy images appeared on the main screen. Everyone on the bridge gasped. The images showed humans in small cells and on examination tables. Zalarak's scientists moved among them, taking samples and performing procedures. Some humans lay very still. Others struggled against restraints. "Are they?" Jack couldn't finish the question. "Some are alive," Lisa confirmed, her voice shaking. "But many appear to be specimens." Laura's hands gripped the edge of her console so hard, her knuckles turned white. "Record everything. We need proof of what's happening here." Communications Officer Alan Rodriguez suddenly straightened in his chair. Captain, I'm intercepting internal communications. I can route it through the translator. A series of clicks and whistles filled the bridge. Then the computer translated. The human specimens continue to show remarkable resistance to pain stimuli. Subject 347 survived 3 times longer than the Centaurian subjects in the same tests. Recommend expanding the neural response experiments. Alan's face had gone pale. They're talking about them like they're not even sentient beings, just interesting lab animals. Keep recording, Laura ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. What else can you intercept? Alan worked his console. There's a lot of traffic. I'm trying to filter for the most important. He paused, listening through his headset. Captain, I think I found records of other species they've encountered before us. Put it on screen, Laura said. The main display showed images of various alien species Laura had never seen before. The translated text explained how each species had been studied, their weaknesses identified, then either enslaved or exterminated. They do this to everyone they meet, Lisa whispered. We're just the latest. Laura was about to respond when alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. We've been detected, Jack shouted. Their sensors just adapted to our cloaking frequency. Shields. Up, Laura ordered. Prepare for emergency jump. Zalarak's patrol ships turned toward them, weapons charging. Captain, Lisa said urgently, I've located Commander Daniels and some of the other original prisoners. They're alive in Section 4B of the main facility. Laura looked at the tactical display. They had maybe 2 minutes before the Zalarak ships would be in firing range. Even with their advanced technology, the Phantom couldn't fight off that many enemy vessels, and a landing party would need hours, not minutes, to attempt a rescue. Can we send them a message? Let them know we're here? Laura asked. Alan shook his head. Not without the Zalaraks intercepting it. Laura made the hardest decision of her career. Set course for Earth space, maximum speed. We have to get this information back. But Captain, Jack protested, we can see where they are now. We could try to, and we'd fail. Laura cut him off. We'd be captured or killed and no one would know what we discovered. Our duty is to bring this information back so we can return with a fleet. The Phantom turned away from the moon, its engines glowing brightly as it accelerated. 2 Zalarak ships managed to fire before they jumped to faster-than-light speed. One shot grazed their hull, causing minor damage. Once they were safely away, Laura collapsed into her chair. The weight of what they had seen and of leaving people behind pressed down on her. Send all our recordings to the secure channel, she told Alan. Flag it for Admiral Hayes only. Yes, Captain, Alan replied quietly. 4 days later, the Phantom reached Earth space. Laura reported directly to Admiral John Hayes, showing him everything they had discovered. The Admiral's face grew darker with each image and recording. They're not just killing our people, he said. They're experimenting on them, learning how to hurt us most effectively. Yes, sir, Laura said. And they've done this before to other species. Admiral Hayes was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change the course of the war. Captain Bennett, I want this footage broadcast to every human colony and ship. Everyone needs to see what we're fighting against. Sir, some of these images are disturbing, Laura cautioned. They should be disturbed, Hayes replied firmly. We've been fighting this war with one hand tied behind our back, taking prisoners, trying to follow Earth's rules of war. Meanwhile, the Zalaraks are doing this. He gestured to the screen where a human subject was clearly being dissected while still alive. The footage was broadcast that same day, on ships and colonies throughout human space. People watched in horror as they saw what fate awaited those captured by the Zalaraks. On the colony world of New Terra, farmers and miners volunteered for military service in record numbers. On Mars, base scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapons specifically designed to penetrate Zalarak's defenses. 3 weeks after the broadcast, Laura received new orders. The Phantom was being reassigned to a special task force. When she arrived at the coordinates, she found 20 of Earth's most advanced warships gathered there. Admiral Hayes addressed all the assembled captains from his flagship. His face appeared on view screens throughout the fleet. What you discovered changed everything, Captain Bennett, he said. We now understand what we're fighting, not just for territory or resources, but for our very existence as a species. He paused, looking at each captain in turn through the video link. As of today, I am implementing a new protocol for all Terran fleet operations. We call it No Quarter. Human ships will no longer attempt to capture Zalarak's vessels or personnel. A murmur went through the Phantom's bridge. The Zalaraks do not recognize our rights as sentient beings, Hayes continued. They see us only as test subjects and potential slaves. We cannot and will not extend to them the protections we would give to honorable enemies. Laura understood what he was saying. Until now, Earth ships had attempted to disable enemy vessels when possible, taking prisoners and treating them according to long-established human codes of war. That would end now. Our mission is now clear, Hayes said. We will locate and rescue any human prisoners, and we will make the Zalaraks understand that taking human captives comes at a price they cannot afford to pay. As the transmission ended, Laura looked around at her crew. She saw determination in their eyes, but also uncertainty. Does this make us like them? Lisa asked quietly. Laura thought about the humans they had seen in the laboratories, treated like animals. No, she said firmly. We're not experimenting on anyone. We're just not taking prisoners anymore. Jack nodded slowly. They started this. They set the rules when they decided humans weren't people, and now they'll learn what happens when you cage humans, Laura said, echoing the words spoken on the Intrepid 6 months earlier. Prepare the ship. We have work to do. The Phantom joined the fleet as it moved deeper into Zalarak space. For the first time since the war began, humanity was bringing the fight to the enemy, and they were no longer playing by Earth's rules. Admiral John Hayes stood before the assembled officers on the battlecruiser Valiant. His gray hair was cut short, and his uniform bore the marks of a man who had seen too many battles. The large meeting room was packed with crew members, all waiting to hear about the new directive. For too long, we've fought this war with outdated notions, Hayes said, his voice carrying to every corner. We tried to be merciful. We tried to follow rules made for human conflicts, but the Zalaraks don't recognize our rules. He tapped a button, and the screen behind him showed images from Captain Bennett's mission. Humans in cages, on tables, being cut open while still alive. This is what happens to our people when they're captured, Hayes continued. Not prison camps, not prisoner exchanges. This. Lieutenant Commander Sam Mitchell watched from the third row. As weapons specialist on the Valiant, he had been working on new targeting systems designed specifically to overcome Zalarak's defenses. He knew what was coming next. As of today, I am implementing the No Quarter protocol across all human ships, Hayes announced. We will no longer take Zalarak's prisoners. We will no longer attempt to disable their ships. From now on, we fight. To win, completely and without hesitation. A murmur went through the crowd. Some nodded firmly. Others looked uncertain. Medical Officer Diane Crawford stood up. Admiral, with respect, are we abandoning everything that makes us human? Our compassion, our belief in basic rights, even for enemies? Hayes didn't look angry at the question. He looked tired. Doctor, I understand your concern, but compassion requires someone capable of recognizing it. The Zalaraks see our mercy as weakness. They see our attempts to take prisoners as stupidity. He walked down from the podium closer to the officers. We're not becoming monsters. We're recognizing that we face monsters, and we will do whatever is necessary to protect our people from them. After the meeting, officers gathered in small groups to discuss the new orders. Sam found himself in the mess hall with Diane and several others. I don't like it, Diane said firmly, her brown eyes full of concern. Once we start down this path, where does it end? Sam sipped his coffee. It ends with us winning this war and saving the people they've taken. By becoming just like them? She challenged. Lieutenant Adam Foster, a young navigation officer, joined the conversation. My sister was on the Columbus when it was captured 3 months ago. We haven't heard anything since. After seeing those videos. His voice trailed off. I'm not saying we shouldn't fight, Diane clarified. I'm asking if we have to abandon our principles to do it. Communications Officer Heather Lloyd spoke up. Maybe principles are a luxury we can't afford right now. Maybe we need to survive first, then worry about our souls later. Their discussion was interrupted by the ship's alert system. All hands to battle stations, enemy vessels detected. This is not a drill. The Valiant, along with 2 support ships, had been patrolling a sector near the edge of Zalarak's space. Now they found themselves face to face with what appeared to be a Zalarak's transport convoy, 5 ships escorted by 2 warships. On the bridge, Captain Peter Morgan assessed the situation. Analysis? Sam checked his console. The transport ships match known Zalarak slave carrier configurations, sir. If they follow their usual patterns, they could be carrying captives from recently conquered territories. Or our people, Peter added grimly. Tactical options? Sam had been waiting for this moment. Sir, I've completed the modifications to our targeting systems. We can now bypass their primary defensive fields and hit their engines directly. We can disable the transports without destroying them. Peter looked at him sharply. You heard the Admiral's orders, Mitchell, no quarter. Yes, sir, Sam acknowledged. But disabling the transports isn't about taking prisoners. It's about who might be on those transports. Understanding dawned on the captain's face. You think they might be carrying prisoners, our people? Or other victims, Sam said. Either way, we should check before we destroy them. Peter considered this, then nodded. Target the escort vessels with everything we have, no survivors there. But disable the transports if possible. The battle was short but intense. The Zalarak's warships fought fiercely, but they were outmatched by the Valiant and its support ships. Using Sam's new targeting system, they managed to cripple the engines on 3 of the 5 transport vessels before the remaining 2 jumped away. Boarding teams, prepare for hostile entry, Peter ordered. Expect heavy resistance and be ready for anything. Sam joined the boarding party on the first transport. They cut through the hull and entered with weapons ready. The interior of the Zalarak ship was humid and dimly lit, with organic-looking corridors that seemed to pulse. They encountered Zalarak's guards immediately. Following the new protocol, the human soldiers showed no mercy. They advanced through the ship methodically, securing each section. Life signs ahead, reported Sergeant Lily Chen, checking her scanner. Not Zalaraks. Multiple species. They forced open a large door and stopped in shock. The chamber beyond contained dozens of cells, each holding alien beings of various species. Some looked vaguely humanoid. Others were completely different from anything Sam had seen before. Check for humans, he ordered. And get these cells open. They found no humans on that ship, but the aliens they freed told a familiar story. They had been captured during Zalarak's expansion into their territories. Some were being taken to labor camps, others to research facilities. One alien, taller than a human with gray skin and 4 arms, approached Sam after being freed. I am Krell, of the Vexaran Confederation. We have been at war with the Zalaraks for 3 of your Earth years. You speak our language? Sam asked, surprised. The Zalaraks made us learn many languages to better serve as translators and intermediaries for new slave species, Krell explained. They spoke often of humans. They were surprised by your resistance. Sam frowned. What do you mean? The Zalaraks have conquered 12 species before encountering yours, Krell said. All surrendered when faced with overwhelming force or after seeing what happened to their captured people. None continued fighting as you have. This information was relayed to Admiral Hayes when the Valiant returned to the fleet. The Admiral interviewed Krell himself. Your people fight differently than any the Zalaraks have encountered, Krell told Hayes. They do not understand why you continue when you should, by their experience, have surrendered by now. Humans don't surrender easily, Hayes replied, especially when our people are being tortured. Krell made a gesture that might have been respect. The Zalaraks' leadership believe it is only a matter of time. They think you will break like the eye. Others? Hayes smiled grimly. Then they don't understand humans at all. In the weeks that followed, the human fleet began to turn the tide. With their new targeting systems and the no-quarter protocol in full effect, they inflicted heavy losses on Zalarak's forces. More importantly, They managed to free captives from 4 different species, gaining valuable allies and intelligence. Krell and several other Vexorans joined human ships as advisors, providing insights into Zalarak's tactics and weaknesses. Other freed species returned to their home territories but established communication channels with Earth. On the Valiant, Diane Crawford still struggled with the new approach to the war. She had treated several wounded Zalaraks who had been captured before the protocol went into effect. "They can feel pain," she told Sam one evening as they sat in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "They bleed. They fear death. Whatever their leaders decided, the average Zalarak soldier might not be so different from us." Sam had been thinking about this too. "Maybe you're right. But until we end this war and free our people, we don't have the luxury of making that distinction." "And after?" she asked. "After we win? After we free everyone they've taken?" Sam looked out at the endless stars. "Then we can decide what kind of humans we want to be in this bigger universe. But first, we have to survive." An alert sounded, calling them back to duty. Another Zalarak ship had been detected. As Sam headed for his station, he passed a new sign that had been placed near the weapons control center. It wasn't official, but similar messages had appeared on human ships throughout the fleet. "Remember the rule: human ships don't spare those who take prisoners." It wasn't a proud motto, Sam reflected, but it was keeping them alive in a war they hadn't asked for. And for now, that had to be enough. The Valiant moved into attack position, its weapons charged and targeting systems locked. The Zalaraks were learning a hard lesson. Humans fought back, and they fought to win. Major Greg Daniels checked his gear one last time. His face looked much like his brother's, the same strong jaw and determined eyes. But unlike Commander Eric Daniels, who had been captured 2 years ago, Greg's face bore a long scar from his right temple to his chin, a reminder of an earlier battle with the Zalaraks. "Final equipment check," he ordered his squad of 8 Marines. They were aboard a stealth insertion craft heading toward the Zalaraks' homeworld. No human had ever set foot there, at least none who had returned to tell about it. Lieutenant Olivia West, the team's tech specialist, ran a diagnostic on her quantum beacon device. "Beacons are operational, sir. Once planted, they'll allow the fleet to target precisely." Their mission was simple, but nearly impossible. Land undetected on the Zalaraks' homeworld, plant quantum beacon devices at key military installations, and get out alive. The beacons would allow the human fleet to bypass the planet's powerful defense systems and strike with surgical precision. 2 minutes to landing, called the pilot from the cockpit. "No detection so far." Greg looked at his team. They were the best, each chosen for their skills and their personal motivation. Like him, each had lost someone to the Zalaraks. "Remember, we're not here for revenge," Greg said, though part of him didn't believe it. "We're here to end this war." The craft landed in a dense forest 30 miles from the nearest city. The air on the Zalaraks' homeworld was breathable for humans but contained more oxygen than Earth's atmosphere, making everything seem slightly brighter, sounds sharper. "Masks on until we know it's safe," Greg ordered. The team moved out using the dense vegetation for cover as they headed toward their first target, a military communications hub. They traveled through the night, avoiding Zalaraks' patrols. The alien landscape was strange but beautiful, with plants that glowed softly in the darkness and strange animals that watched them with multiple eyes. By dawn, they reached the outskirts of a large complex surrounded by high walls. "That's our first target," Greg said, studying it through binoculars. "We need to place a beacon in the central building." Sergeant Ryan Cooper, their demolitions expert, pointed to a drainage tunnel. "We could use that as entry, plant small charges to create a distraction on the other side, then slip in during the confusion." The plan worked perfectly. While Zalarak security forces rushed to investigate an explosion near their power generators, Greg led his team through the drainage system and into the facility. "West, you're up," Greg said once they reached the main communications building. Olivia worked quickly, placing the small quantum beacon device in a hidden corner and activating it. "Beacon 1 is live," she confirmed. "Signal is transmitting." "To the fleet. They were preparing to exit when Olivia suddenly stopped, her eyes fixed on a computer terminal. "Major, I need 1 minute," she said, already connecting her translator device to the alien system. "We don't have a minute," Greg growled. "Stick to the mission." "Sir, these are prisoner records," she said urgently. I think some of our people are still alive." Greg hesitated, then nodded. 1 minute, no more." Olivia's fingers flew over her device as she downloaded and translated the alien data. "Got it," she said after 45 seconds. "Major, there are 57 human prisoners still alive, including your brother." Greg's heart jumped. He had hoped, but never truly believed. "Where?" "They're being held in a high-security detention center about 15 miles from here," Olivia replied. "According to these records, they're considered special research subjects because of their unusual resistance." The team moved on to their second target, a military command center. As they placed the second beacon, Sergeant Cooper discovered a weapons cache. "Sir, these look like prototype weapons," he reported. "Based on the safety warnings, they might be planet killers." Greg studied the alien text through his translator. "They're planning something big. Some kind of final solution if they can't win conventionally." They successfully planted 3 more beacons before Olivia made another discovery. While hacking into a secured communications hub to place their 6th beacon, she found access to the Zalarak's planetary broadcast system. "Major, we can send a message to the entire planet," she said, her eyes wide with the possibility. Greg thought quickly. This wasn't part of the mission, but it might change everything. "Can you make it untraceable?" "For about 10 minutes before they locate us," she estimated. "Do it," he decided. "Patch me in." Olivia worked her technical magic, and soon Greg found himself able to address the entire Zalarak civilization. "People of the Zalarak's empire," he began, his words translated into their language. "I am Major Greg Daniels of Earth. For 2 years our peoples have been at war, a war your leaders started, when they took our diplomats prisoner and began experimenting on them." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We have discovered that 57 human prisoners are still alive on your world. You have 1 standard week to release them unharmed. If you do not, we will bring such force against your military installations that nothing will remain." He continued, his voice growing stronger. "We do not wish to harm civilians. Our quarrel is with those who take prisoners and treat them as laboratory specimens. Release our people, and we can discuss peace. Refuse, and learn why throughout human history the one rule enemies should never break is to mistreat our prisoners of war." The message went out across the planet. Later, they learned it had caused chaos in the Zalarak society. Many civilians had been kept ignorant of what their military was doing to captive species. Others had been told the humans were savage aggressors who deserved their fate. "They're tracking the signal," Olivia warned after 8 minutes. "We need to move. Now." They fled the communications hub just as Zalarak security forces burst in. A firefight erupted as they retreated through the city streets. Sergeant Cooper was hit in the shoulder by an energy weapon but kept running. "New extraction point," Greg called over the team comm. "We head for the detention center." "Sir?" Lieutenant Frank Rivera questioned. "That wasn't the plan." "Plans change," Greg replied. "We know where our people are. We're not leaving without them." The team fought their way across the city, using the confusion caused by Greg's broadcast to their advantage. When they reached the detention center, they found it already in chaos. Inside the Zalarak's government, the broadcast had sparked immediate conflict. The ruling council split into 2 factions, those who wanted to comply with the human demands and those who saw it as weakness. The hardline faction, led by Supreme Commander Zexvor, ordered the immediate execution of all human prisoners to show strength. The moderate faction, led by Council Elder Raltun, opposed this action and dispatched forces to protect the prisoners. When Greg's team arrived at the detention center, they found Zalaraks fighting Zalaraks. Taking advantage of the confusion, they slipped inside. The detention facility was vast and maze-like. Following Olivia's directions from the downloaded records, They made their way to the high-security section where the human prisoners were held. "They should be just ahead," Olivia said, checking her device. "Cell block 7. When they reached the cell block, they found the doors already open and signs of a struggle. For a moment, Greg feared they were too late. Then a voice called out, "From the shadows, identify yourselves." Greg recognized that voice immediately, though it was rougher than he remembered. "Eric, it's Greg, your brother." A figure stepped forward, thin and scarred, but unmistakably Commander Eric Daniels. Behind him were other human prisoners, some supporting those too weak to walk on their own. "Greg?" Eric stared in disbelief. Captain Maria Hernandez stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the Zalarak's homeworld grow larger on the main screen. At 42, she was one of the most experienced officers in the fleet, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much war. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. "All weapon systems ready, Captain," replied her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Joe Garcia. "The quantum beacons are transmitting clearly. We have precise targeting on all 5 military installations." "And the detention center?" Maria asked. "We have its location, but the area is complex. Many civilian structures nearby. We'd need to send in ground forces for a clean extraction." Maria nodded. This was the most important mission of her career, perhaps of the entire war. The Retribution, nearly a mile long and armed with weapons that could reduce continents to ash, had been built for one purpose: to end the war on humanity's terms. "Open a channel to the Zalarak's leadership," she ordered. The communications officer worked her console. "Channel open, Captain." Maria stood tall, her uniform crisp despite the weeks in space. "This is Captain Maria Hernandez of the Earthship, Retribution. We have entered your system with enough firepower to reduce your military installations to dust. We know you are holding human prisoners. Release them immediately and we can discuss terms." There was a long pause before a response came. The screen showed a Zalarax with pale blue skin, different from the aggressive reds and oranges they usually saw in battle. "I am Council Elder Raltun of the Zalarak's Provisional Government," the alien replied through the translator. "Your arrival has occurred during a period of internal conflict. The former military leadership has been removed from power." Maria's eyes narrowed. "Convenient timing." "Not convenient," Raltun corrected. "Caused. Your Major Daniel's message to our people revealed truths many had suspected but few had confirmed. The treatment of captive species violated our oldest laws, but these violations were hidden from most citizens." "And the human prisoners?" Maria pressed. "They are alive. They are protected. But they are surrounded by forces loyal to the old regime. We have been unable to extract them safely." Maria looked to her tactical officer. "Confirm?" "The quantum beacons and our scans show heavy fighting around the detention center, Captain." "It appears to be true." Maria made her decision. "Elder Raltun, we will assist in the extraction of our people. But know this. If this is a deception, we will not hesitate to use the full power of this ship." "We understand," the alien replied. "We will transmit all tactical information we have about the facility and the forces surrounding it." As the transmission ended, Joe approached Maria. "Do you trust them, Captain?" "No," she said flatly. "But we need to get our people out. And a ground assault makes more sense than trying to bomb our way in." She tapped her communicator. "Prepare dropships. I want our best combat teams ready to launch in 30 minutes." The Retribution moved into position above the Zalarak's capital city. Its massive shadow fell across buildings and streets, visible even from the ground where Greg Daniels and the other humans were still barricaded in the detention center. "Look at that," Eric said, pointing through a small window at the sky where the huge ship could be seen. "They really did send everything." Greg nodded, feeling a surge of pride. "That's the Retribution, newest ship in the fleet, built to end this war." Their moment of hope was interrupted by a massive explosion that shook the building. The hardline Zalarax faction had begun a new assault, more desperate than before. "They know the fleet is here," Greg said, checking his weapon. "They want to eliminate us before extraction can arrive." Eric, despite his weakened condition, took position at one of the barricades. Then let's make them work for it. The attacking Zalarax used heavy weapons to blast through the outer defenses. Sergeant Cooper was hit by debris and went down, bleeding badly. Two of the rescued prisoners with medical training dragged him to safety and began treatment. "West, where's our backup?" Greg shouted over the sound of energy weapons. Olivia, still manning the communication station, called back, "Drop. Ships launching now, 6 minutes out." Those were the longest 6 minutes of Greg's life. The Zalarax breached their inner defenses and the fighting became hand-to-hand in some places. Eric, showing strength that belied his emaciated frame, fought alongside his brother. Then, new sounds joined the chaos, the roar of dropship engines and the distinctive heavy thump of human combat armor. "They're here!" someone shouted. Through the broken walls, Greg saw Zalarax soldiers being cut down by precision fire from human marines in powered combat suits. The dropships had landed on the roof and walls of the detention center, deploying troops directly into the battle. "Major Daniels?" A Marine captain approached through the smoke. "Captain Lee, sir. We're here to get you out." "We have wounded," Greg replied, gesturing to where Cooper and several prisoners lay. "Medical teams are right behind us," Lee assured him. "We need to move fast. The Retribution is holding position, but there's a situation developing in orbit." The evacuation began immediately. The most severely wounded were taken first, loaded onto medical shuttles. Greg insisted on staying until everyone else was safely aboard. As he and Eric finally headed for the last shuttle, Greg looked back at the detention center that had been his brother's prison for 2 years. "I almost can't believe we did it," he said quietly. Eric put a hand on his shoulder. "Humans don't leave their people behind." In orbit, the situation had indeed grown complicated. While the Retribution held position over the capital, a group of Zalarax warships had appeared at the edge of the system. But instead of attacking, they sent a message. "Captain Hernandez," came a transmission from the lead Zalarax ship. "I am Admiral Zexavor of the true Zalarax fleet. The traitors who have seized power do not speak for our empire." Maria recognized the name, one of the hardline leaders who had ordered the experiments on human prisoners. "Your empire appears to be having a disagreement with itself," she replied coldly. "This is not our concern. We are here for our people." "You have violated our sovereign space," Zexavor continued, "but we are prepared to be merciful. Withdraw your forces, and we will allow you to leave with your prisoners." Joe leaned close to Maria. "Captain, all our people are aboard the evacuation ships. They'll dock with us in 10 minutes. Maria nodded but kept her eyes on the screen. "And what guarantees do we have that you won't pursue us, Admiral? Or that you won't continue your research on other species?" There was a pause before Zexavor answered. "You have our word as—" "Your word means nothing," Maria cut him off. "You've shown what you think of other species. You've shown what happens to those who trust you." She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. "Status of the quantum beacons?" "All 5 still transmitting clearly, Captain. Target all designated military installations. Charge main batteries." The bridge crew worked quickly, preparing. "The most powerful weapons ever built by human hands, Captain," Joe said quietly. "The provisional government, the moderates, they've been helping us." Maria's face was set in grim lines. "And how long before the hardliners retake control? How many more species will they capture and experiment on? This ends today." Just then another transmission came through. It was Elder Raltoon again. "Captain Hernandez, we have detected Admiral Zexavor's fleet. They are preparing to fire on your vessel. But first, they intend to launch forbidden weapons at our civilian centers. They would rather destroy our world than lose control of it." Maria looked to her tactical officer, who nodded. "Confirmed, Captain. Energy readings from their lead ship indicate some form of high-yield destructive device." "Powering up." "Weapons locked on all targets, Captain," reported the weapons officer. Maria made the decision that would shape the future of 2 species. Fire. The Retribution's main batteries fired in perfect synchronization. 5 beams of concentrated energy shot down to the planet, guided by the quantum beacons. Unlike conventional orbital bombardment, which would have caused widespread destruction, these strikes hit only their intended targets: the military installations, weapons development facilities, and command centers of the hardline faction. Simultaneously, the ship's defense systems activated as Zexvor's fleet opened fire. The Retribution shuddered under the assault, but its advanced shields held. "Return fire on the enemy fleet," Maria ordered. "Target their weapon systems and engines only." Her order raised eyebrows on the bridge. Under the no-quarter protocol, they should have aimed to destroy the Zalarak ships completely. "Captain?" Joe questioned. Maria's gaze remained fixed on the tactical display. "The war is changing, Joe. Maybe we need to change with it." The Retribution's secondary batteries opened up on the Zalarak's fleet. With surgical precision, they disabled ship after ship without destroying them completely. Zexvor's flagship, attempting to launch its forbidden weapon, received special attention. Its weapons bays were targeted specifically, causing the device to detonate inside the ship itself. The flagship broke apart in a blinding flash that temporarily lit up the entire system. When the evacuation ships docked with the Retribution, Greg and Eric Daniels made their way to the bridge. They arrived just as the last of Zexvor's ships was being disabled.